Welcome back, everybody. My next guest has created an environmentally friendly battery with a mission to end energy poverty globally. Connie Stacey, welcome to the show.
Welcome, thanks for having me.
You betcha. So Grengen, tell us what it's all about.
So first off, good start. It's green engine. That's where it came from.
Yeah,
You nailed
right.
it.
Yeah.
You nailed
I keep
it.
thinking green energy. So
That's right.
That's
You're
right.
on the right.
Yeah. So
we wanted something we could trademark, so it would be unique. And green engine is what we stumbled on. So Grengen.
Grengen.
So good start.
Good stuff.
So the Grengen is actually an overall power system based on lithium-ion batteries. So we could actually use different chemistries, but typically we use lithium-ion. And we make the whole thing work like Lego. And the idea is to accomplish three main tasks, three big challenges in the energy space, particularly in the electrical space. One is portability. We want energy where we are. Let's face it, Lord help you if your phone should die out in the middle of nowhere without a charge. Two, scalability. So we are constantly increasing our demand on energy. So we get a new computer, it needs more energy. We need a bigger computer. On it goes. And the third is plug and play. Wow, that was a moment, wasn't it?
It happens.
So the third is the fact that it's plug and play. So we're removing the technicians from the system.
Gotcha.
So now on the small scale, what we're looking at is things like energy poverty, where we're going to areas where there may be no electrical access at all or very limited. And we're able to give small systems that people can just combine on the fly. You don't even have to be able to read to be able to power your everyday devices. So it could be phones, lights for a home. That would be energy tier 1. But we go all the way up that we can power a city with the same gear. So of all of our components, only one is actually ever installed by a technician. And typically it's like a 15-minute install. But what it does is it creates a way for people to be able to dynamically add and remove components to the system to adjust to their changing energy needs. So on the bigger scale, the component is called the smart switch. So it's one component within the system. And what it does is a combination of energy efficiency, so it'll lower your overall consumption, and demand side load management, which basically means it's going to say, how much energy do you need at what time? And then dynamically answers to what energy source am I going to take from to be cost effective and energy efficient. So it could be grid, it could be solar, it could be a combination of different things. You could hook up a bicycle, it would work. And what it does then is it stores the energy into the batteries and says, okay, let's take, for example, areas where there are time of use fees. So Ontario, you pay 6 cents a kilowatt hour at 5 o'clock in the morning. But at dinner time, you pay 13.5 cents. So the system says, whoa, there's time of use schedule here. We're going to store energy when it's cheap and then use it from the batteries when it's expensive. That alone will generally cut about a third of your electrical bill right off the hop.
Wow.
But it also creates energy security because now you have in-home energy backup. So if there's a power outage, you've got X number of hours.
Gotcha. And it's kind of like what you were saying, especially with the energy poverty at different places of the world right now, with their energy system being so inconsistent, something like this would fix and manage that problem for them.
Yeah, in a big way. So it's really interesting. I find in Alberta, one of our challenges is the fact that we're so blessed when it comes to energy. Here, I mean, we can't imagine turn on a light switch and there's no light.
Right.
What? Is not fathomable. And our electricity is very cheap also. So not only do we have an abundant supply, it's very, very inexpensive. In fact, you would probably be hard-pressed to find 5 cities in the world comparable with the cities like Edmonton and Calgary for their cost of electricity and the availability. So we tend to kind of feel isolated, and we don't necessarily look at the global picture. Globally, there's still over 1 billion people who have zero access to energy. So that's candlelight. When you go to the level that they do not have enough energy to cook with, you're at 2.6 billion. So now these people are burning something to cook. So some kind of biomass, and that's a major emissions problem. So that's a huge problem. And then you go one more step to what's called domestic energy poverty. Now you're talking about more than half the world's population that either have intermittent power, so it's on and off at any time. They only have power for certain hours of the day, Or they may only have low voltage power, so they're only able to power certain things for certain periods of time. And they've even been scenarios where warring groups or factions that have been at odds with each other will get together to protest power companies. So this actually was a great article written in the New Yorker 3 years ago about, I think it was called Lights Out in the Middle East. And it was talking about how these different factions who are normally quite at odds with each other got together to protest the power companies because, you'd be in an elevator and the power just goes out.
Right, and you're stuck.
And here I am.
And here I am.
And here I am.
Right.
So power is actually, outside of places like Alberta, a massive problem. So that's really what kind of started it, was how do we create a system that allows people to get power wherever they need it, whenever they need it. To do that, we had to remove the electricians. I mean, how many electricians do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, they're wonderful, and it is a great skill to have, but they're not common.
Yeah.
So if you're going to bring power to sub-Saharan Africa, you can't be reliant on an electrician.
Definitely.
We also have this thing that is sometimes called a watt addiction. And you can guess where that goes.
Yeah.
Right? We just keep needing more and more energy. So we get a new, bigger phone, and it requires more power because the battery's a little bit bigger, so it'll last longer, but then we need to charge it more often, and on it goes.
You betcha.
And it just gets worse and worse. And that's globally true. What's interesting is studies have shown that access to energy and economic growth are directly correlated. So as people, now, which comes first? As people get more access to energy, so grows their economic well-being.
Right.
So it is a massive factor in overall solution related to poverty. So trying to get a solution to people is really quite crucial in that kind of bigger picture. And what we did, now to add to that, is we said, well, we want it to be environmentally friendly. So we're going to do a couple things with that. One, we're going to make it agnostic of input. And the idea there is we wanted to be able to say, okay, you have solar, great, use solar. You have grid, okay, use grid. You have a bicycle, have at her, just get a great workout program. So we wanted to be agnostic of input so that anybody could use it. We also wanted it to be portable because people are so frequently on the move. And we think, us and out and about, we got to have our cell phone. But in a rural setting, in third world nations, you're talking about walking miles and miles to get water, for example.
Right.
And then, maybe you have something to test if the water happens to be drinkable.
Yeah.
How are you going to power that?
Right.
Right. So power becomes kind of a underlying necessity for almost everything we do now to be able to access education. Well, if you're going to be at home and you're going to read, how are you going to do that if you don't have light?
Yes.
So it becomes a really compounding effect when you don't have access to energy.
Right, right. So tying it back to Alberta, so you guys started here.
Yep.
Yeah, and you guys, now I know you're doing some manufacturing overseas, but you're bringing all that back to Alberta from what we were discussing earlier. Yeah,
100%.
which is fantastic.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. I strongly believe actually there's an opportunity for Alberta to be a leader in advanced manufacturing. And part of that comes from the fact that we are blessed with a fantastic electrical system and energy system, which gives us the ability to then expand in that space. So less and less hands touching the finished good means more and more machine. And now your cost of labor is less of a fact than your cost of electricity. So I actually think there is a big opportunity for Alberta in that space in particular. And let's face it, we have an enormous group of people with a huge array of skills. And engineers and AI coming out of the university, it's an ideal setting in my mind. So one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to bring it back over here. Part of that also comes from the fact that the Canadian government has actually done a pretty good job in creating quite a few trade agreements globally. So one of the things that happens right now for the couple of units that we first started to build, and we built them overseas, when we sell them to a place like Israel, they get hit with a tax. Oh, but wait, there's a free trade agreement between Canada and Israel. Not if you're manufacturing elsewhere.
Gotcha.
So all of a sudden, our end product gets hit with a tax. So now by manufacturing in Canada, of all the G7 countries, has the most free trade agreements.
Right.
So now all of a sudden I can sell my product quite competitively because there's no tax. So a Chinese company might be able to manufacture more cheaply, maybe, but now they're going to get hit with a tax. So if it's 15%, that's quite a bit of margin to work with.
Yes.
So that can make a big difference for companies who are looking to manufacture here.
No kidding. That is super cool to know, actually.
Yeah, it's something that I think not quite enough people really recognize the advantage there, because it's based on your country of origin for the product. So the country of origin, in our case, was China with our first couple of units. And we said, well, we're building great product, but let's build it here.
Yeah.
And that gives us a lot more control over our supply chain, finished product, all of it. And we've had no complaints with our manufacturing facility that we've been contracting, but I think we can do it as well or better.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. Holy smokes. So what is the overall, the big picture for your organization and your product?
Better office.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
No, you know what? We really want to see the system expand. One of the big advantages, I'm going to talk to something technical for just a second.
For sure.
But one of the things a lot of people don't recognize is the time of day that you use electricity has a huge impact on emissions. So one of the reasons why there are big tariffs when you go over certain loads, this is really in the industrial and commercial spaces, especially industrial. You go to a really high demand on electricity. First off, you can bring down the grid, right? And that happens. So they don't want you to do that. They're going to hit you with some really high, wow, are you going to pay for that?
Right.
But there's also an effect, which is that they turn on peaker plants. So peaker plants are typically the highest emission producing. So they only use them to meet the maximum demand. So most of the time you've got your hydro or your solar, your wind all chucking along, you're storing it, but when you hit those demands, now they have to turn on everything.
Gotcha.
So now you're talking a lot of coal plants, for example. Well, then the coal plants, of course, have a higher emission. So the time of day that you use the electricity has a big impact actually on the amount of emission that it comes out. So in fact, by levelizing the load, one of the effects is it creates a more stable grid for everyone, and it actually reduces the amount of use on peaker plants. So it has a really positive effect on the overall GHG. So right now, our kind of move is we found that as much as our passion might be to work towards energy poverty, and we are continuing to work in that direction, we have found a really strong interest from industrial partners who are saying, wow, we're getting hit with huge fees, and if there's an outage in our plant, we can face huge losses. So recalibration of machines, or if there's a slippage in the line, you could have all of the items on your line lost. Right. That can be a huge cost for a company. So having some type of system that is a continuous power supply, which ours is, which also helps to reduce the cost, well, that's a win. So what we're really hoping in the next 5-ish years in particular is that development on that side will help to fund some of the other projects we want to do, which hugely successful, but possibly a little less profitable.
Gotcha. Yeah. But all towards the bigger goal of just bettering everything.
Yeah, and if you think about the fact that it is a plug-and-play system, and we actually, a few weeks ago, did get the official patent in the US.
Nice.
For modular energy storage systems. Apparently Lego batteries is not what you name a patent.
Lego batteries. Yeah, I can see someone having a problem with that. Yeah.
Anyway, so because it is modular, if your needs change, you never have to see an electrician. If you want to add more battery to your system, say the studio was run on our system, and your demands grow, you go, well, let's buy 3 extra batteries and toss them on a rack.
Right.
That's it.
Away you go.
You don't have to re-engineer. There's no electrician involved.
Yeah.
In the long run, you will be able to do things like take a battery off the rack, grab an inverter cap, go camping.
Right.
And now you don't have to take a portable diesel generator, another big emission factor. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
This has been an educational experience and a half. This is very, very cool. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Can you, if people want to find out more about this, where can they go to find out? You can go to grengen.com. So that's just grengine.com. Awesome. Right on. Thank you again so much for coming on the show. My pleasure. This was awesome, and I'm 100% guaranteed that people are going to take some really great stuff away from this. So again, thanks for coming in today. Well, thanks for having me. Absolutely. You betcha. Take care. You bet.